6:03, I'll call the Senior Center Building Committee to order. First item on the agenda is a roll call. I see we have Paul Malrani.
Here.
Jack Holloway. Here. Diane Allen.
Here.
Greg Bendel.
Here.
Teresa Manganelli.
Here.
Myself, George Hooper. Also with us, Jeff Hull. Rebecca taking minutes.
Is Terry coming? Or?
I think I saw her just pull, I saw a van like the van.
All right. I am expecting her, but the rest will not make it tonight. In front of you, just some of the, what we're looking for. This was presented from Dan. A lot of our OPM. Dan, can you hear us?
I can.
Hi, Dan. Welcome, Terry.
How you doing, Diane? How's Florida?
84, sunny, perfect day with a slightly windy breeze.
They had snow yesterday.
All right, again, so what we have here, this is for the town meeting when under committees, reports, and updates. And this is, I will get up and speak on behalf. Basically, it's where we are to this point. We're not going to be really talking about the designs. I mean, we'll talk about feasibility and schematic design, but not the layout. We're not going to have a presentation up. This is just under committees and reports. So this, if you kind of read through it, it lays out where we are at the June meeting of 2020, the appropriation from free cash of the feasibility and schematic design for the new senior center. It kind of goes through. If you want to take a second and read through what was here, and if you have any suggestions. Again, it's not meant to be really drawn out. We have the two that we'll be reporting on, the two committees, and then I think the bylaw committee, Jeff, will also be speaking.
Right, yeah, bylaw and Wildwood School, Glen Brand.
By Glen Brand.
George, did you send me a copy of
Go
it?
ahead and mark it up.
Was it attached with your agenda? Probably not. I didn't get this till late, so.
That's all right.
Dan can send it right over to you. Dan, could you send that to Diane, please?
I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
The only thing is, say for example, the design team halfway through.
Yeah.
It's one of the bullets, preparation, developing the programming for the senior center. Do you think, you know, you and I and the team know what programming is, but do we need any, or are we beyond that as to? I just don't know if they're thinking programming as in programs versus.
Should we include the word adjacencies in there, programs and adjacencies?
Yeah, just so that they understand a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even add the word layout.
I did. Thank you very much, Dan.
Is this to be distributed, or just this is the bullet points?
No,
for them to be
I'm
read?
gonna just
Okay.
kind of read it out, you know? So it won't be verbatim. I'm not gonna sit there and read the whole thing as it goes through, but these are the points I wanted to touch upon.
Just a few grammatical errors, Dan.
Shocker.
George, just a comment, and I'm not sure, you know, we refer to adjacencies, and, you know, certainly being on the committee, we're kind of familiar with that, but for the person who may not typically be involved in architectural design, are they gonna know that that means essentially which, that we're talking about adjacencies being the spaces that are next to each other, essentially, right? I mean, so each of these rooms that we're talking about have certain uses. I'm just trying to be I think we ought to be as clear as possible for somebody that isn't
Absolutely.
as, tuned into this kind of stuff. So, the intent is to develop the layout,
That's-
what rooms are gonna be used for what purposes, and where the, that kind of,
So maybe if we go through the design team's preparation for developing programs and adjacencies for the senior centers are the layouts of the individual rooms that will be used for recreational purposes, for bingo, for arts.
I don't
and
even think
crafts.
you have to go that deep. I think you can say the design team began preparations for the layout of the interior spaces of the senior center and the types of programs
in those spaces.
in those spaces. And I think that covers everything.
I
Okay,
think the word adjacencies gets a little confused. People don't understand what that means.
so we'll go with the layout.
The layout of the interior spaces of the senior center and the types of programs that will take place in those spaces.
Great.
And there's no mincing words there. I think it's,
Programs.
that will take place within those spaces.
Besides survey, do we want to talk about anything else going on besides survey?
Oh, the site surveying, okay.
George, do you want to, in the end there, you want to say it is hopeful that we finalize the schematic design phase for a fall
Where are you?
special meeting? Do you want to say anything about that, mentioning that there will be a fall meeting?
Yeah, I'll get into that, well, do we want to talk about a fall town meeting?
I think we should,
Just to make sure.
at the very end, just mention that it's the goal
Yeah.
of the committee.
The goal is to have a
Yeah.
fall town meeting.
It is our expectation that we, hope to have plans for a special,
Yeah, we expect to have everything prepared, so.
for a special town meeting in the fall, right?
Yeah,
How about the committee's goal to project, to present the project for construction funding at the fall town meeting?
At a special fall town meeting. We don't have an annual one, but a special one.
Annual fall.
No, it will be a special
Yeah.
town meeting.
And that's gonna be the last line?
Yeah, I would make that the last line.
you want to reference the fact, and maybe it's kind of implicit in this, but that we expect to have a cost estimate, which will of course be the basis for the amount of funds we're seeking, but put in the fact that we'll have a cost estimate, so we're going into this with, an expectation as to how much we're gonna need.
Well, maybe the funding, explain what what the fall meeting is gonna be for. For funding the final construction.
That could be the second to the last bullet point. Maybe we can just build on that a little bit.
We'll be coming for funds for construction during our special fall town meeting.
Yeah, at our special fall town meeting. Oh, one other thing, George, too, I'm thinking. would be very helpful. Just one little bullet in there, maybe above or whatever, that public forums will be held,
Will continue to be held.
will continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may be worth noting that these meetings, all these meetings have been public, and they'll,
Yeah, these are public
Continuing.
meetings, so.
And that we had, there was one at the senior center to show that they're starting to give information out.
I think it's important for them to know that public forums will be held.
I think with respect to the funding piece, we probably should note the fact that the expectation, is going to be, that funding will be a combination of borrowing and use of reserves, so that there's not an expectation that there's going to be an override request or.
Well, again, this is an update from the committee, so we're going to discuss about.
What has happened, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So we're going to talk about funds that are going to be expended. I mean, we do mention the free cash for the
Yeah.
feasibility, but is that something that you think this committee should talk about as far as expenditures?
I think any opportunity we get to talk about free cash, we should talk about it. That's just me.
Yeah, I clearly the theme should be, we're talking about, the intent of the report is to provide information that has been
It's an
garnered
update.
to date.
Right.
I guess the exception to that perhaps, and, obviously the committee can decide, but is whether we want to be very clear that, that the funding, we're not expecting to pursue a Proposition 2.5 override, that it'll be a combination of borrowing and use of reserves.
Paul, can you share again what you said? I missed what you said right before.
That's the free cash.
Just now,
Yeah.
I just think that anytime we have an opportunity to talk about free cash and how this is going to be funded, I think we should,
I have that right in the beginning here, so I think.
I think we
that's-
should take
So,
that.
okay.
I agree, but I also would be very cautious about sticking our neck out and committing to
Yeah.
methods of funding, because we don't know what could happen in the next 6 months.
That's
And
kind of my point.
something may change, God willing, that's not the case. But I wouldn't want to stand up in front of town meeting and commit to something
Right.
until we're ready to commit.
And I would just like to, again, this is to give an update from what this committee has done to this
Right.
point. So we start talking about that, we can generate questions from the audience, and again,
And that may be one of the questions.
right, so, yeah, so we're not looking to really do that.
Right.
It's not gonna be a questions and answer period, it's just going to be where we're at statement.
And nobody at town meeting is going to be able to stand up and ask questions about this, right?
Well, I mean, it's not a questions, I don't know if the moderator has made that perfectly clear.
Well, I don't know specifically whether he's going to preface Article 2? Article 2, by noting that there will not be an opportunity for Q&A, but clearly in my communications with him, he's made it very clear to me that this is just for reports. He actually cited the provision in the bylaw that talks about, to hear reports, hear being the operative word, and not to be responding to questions. So that's his intent, I suspect, but I don't know for certain that he will kind of establish that
Right.
before hearing the reports.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to stick to, try to give to where we are and how we've come to this today.
And I would also use the opportunity to encourage people to attend. I mean, if they have follow-up questions, then they can certainly come to the next meeting or reach out to
Well,
a
that would
committee
be
member.
towards the end, that we've been meeting every other Wednesday, it's public meetings, it's televised when can be by WCTV. If not, you can go to our website and you can see the recordings of our meetings, so, and provide all that information that's there.
Although I thought at one of the last meetings, we talked about now that the Finance Committee is out of budgetary hearings, that we may not be meeting on Wednesdays due to the difficulty in getting the school committee on their Wednesday filmed,
Right.
and then the other committee on the opposite Wednesday, and then, so we're piggybacking with the school committee. One of our committees is piggybacking with them.
And the Board of Appeals.
And Board of Appeals, yeah. So maybe we don't want to say we meet every other Wednesday, every other week.
We could say we have been meeting.
Meet
every-
regularly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose you just note that, the postings are on the town's website,
yeah.
Yeah.
future meetings.
Didn't that question of meetings come up at our last meeting? And we kind of said at this point to maintain the every other Wednesday until we can just truly figure it out?
Right, it's because of just trying to coordinate everybody's schedule. This seems to be working well for us, the Permanent Building Committee, plus everybody else. The Wednesdays seem to really work. I know that the FinCom was meeting Tuesdays, Thursdays through that period, so, that would have to be something we can discuss, which is a part of the agenda, discussion for a future meeting, so maybe it's something we can think of. Typically, when we're doing the town hall, not to confuse any of the public, but when we're doing the town hall school admin, it was because the school committees weren't meeting on those nights. But as we know, they've changed their schedule around a few times. So, like we're meeting tonight. Next week, we're not going to meet. It's prepping for the annual town meeting.
Mhm.
And then our next meeting is town hall, school admin, right? And then it goes to the senior center, I believe. I'll double check, but.
Yeah, from the last meeting, we're meeting on the 11th, which is also school committee and Board of Appeals on the same night.
Right. So they fluctuate, because we've had that happen a couple of times with them. They move their meetings, so.
So George, there will be no meeting the week of the town?
Right, so the 27th, that would have been a town hall school admin meeting. We're not meeting the 27th.
We are not meeting. Okay, I'm gonna X that out on my calendar then.
That's later on in the agenda. Once we get through this update
Okay.
reports, we can discuss that. Does everybody kind of like what they see as far as it goes through?
Yep.
Lot riding on those last few comments, so.
And just making sure that indeed stating the fact that you did do a presentation at the senior center. I think that's really important for people to know that you started. And we can give it the date even if we wanted.
With respect to that, though, respectfully, I would be careful to call that a public forum. I don't know when that was advertised. I don't see it on the website of the town. I didn't see it advertised anywhere as a public forum, so I'd be cautious to, they give a presentation, that's fine, but if we're gonna.
I would say just a presentation then?
Yeah, public forum means you advertise it, invite people, it's usually in the evening.
Okay. We have public meetings, all of our, but, right, we could say we held a meeting over the senior center, and we look to do additional public forums in the future.
In the evenings when people can attend.
So George, the second to the last bullet then, when completed with the design stage, you will be coming for funds for construction. You're gonna rewrite that, right?
Right, that's gonna be at our special town meeting in the fall.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Was that presentation recorded?
I don't know, did we have
No,
that?
it wasn't.
At the senior center?
No.
I don't believe so, no. It wasn't a full committee meeting, it was just our OPM, the designer, and myself and Terry. And a lot of seniors.
So, just one thing, the first bullet point that we worked on, the design team, I noticed that the next bullet point goes into more detail about what that stuff means. So maybe that first bullet point can be the design team began preparations for developing the programming, comma, the layout, and then add in that stuff that we just did. And you can probably leave off the next bullet point after that. It talks about all that stuff.
You mean in this scenario, just scratch
Yeah,
it?
yeah. You could probably leave that all out if you say programming, i.e. the layout of the interior
Right.
spaces and what programs will be occurring within those spaces. Well, I just noticed that second bullet point after that goes into detail about that stuff.
George, do you think it's necessary to say what the committee is made up of? In other words, it's not just the permanent building committee in the very beginning? Just to let people know the cross-section of people that we have,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
you know?
Permanent
and
building
so that
committee,
they know that Terry is
Director of
involved,
Elderly
Board of
Services.
Selectmen are involved, town
Comprised
manager,
of
Yeah.
you know,
FinCom.
finance committee. You know, it's not just the permanent building committee.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, it is the building committee and finance, Terry, and BOS, right?
Yes.
I should probably redo that other one that says when the site selection was approved by the select board, the committee and the design team were able to finalize the programming, which leads to the finalization of the schematic design. So you probably want to clean that up too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can streamline it.
Yeah.
You're, just a comment on, towards the very bottom of the first page, reference, exterior designs to match historical Wilmington have been started, have started to be explored. I know there was some back and forth as to whether it was going to be a historical design or a contemporary design. Is it fair to say that the intent at this point is to kind of be more on the historical end of things than contemporary? I guess I just want to, I think we need to be mindful of what we're saying there.
Jeff, I think match is too strong.
Yeah, I don't think that really goes here, you know.
Thought that was
Yeah.
brought up in town hall.
And compass would probably be better.
They had all the pictures of the old thing, we tried to incorporate it into the.
I think there was a senior center. Yeah.
Do we have to say anything about historical Wilmington? I mean,
No, I don't think so.
do we even have to put it in, you know? I mean,
No,
No.
no. That could be something
Confines
that,
You know, because
Be determined.
we're still working on this plan.
Right.
It's-
Yeah, I agree.
At each meeting.
I think you can take that right out.
And, you know, what one person thinks of historical, what a building might look like, another person.
Sat in the car too long.
So, and we may be cornering ourselves into something that
Yeah.
might come back and haunt us.
Right.
Correct.
And then upcoming, a continued exploration of exterior design elements. I just take elements right out. You just put designs.
Again, just like Greg was saying, you're not doing this verbatim, so
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of go through it.
These are your talking
Yeah.
points. essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah.
And if I freeze up, Jeff's gonna jump in anyway.
There you go.
Okay.
Looks good.
But it is a report, that's all that it's.
That's all it is. Right. And I'm not going to be looking for anybody else to speak on it, you know, so. Again, we won't really be entertaining questions, unless Terry wants.
Oh, no, I was just like, thank goodness.
All right. Next item on the agenda is, we talked about our next meetings.
Excuse me.
So we're not going to, we won't be meeting until the 11th.
That's what I have, yep.
And then we'll
And
try-
that's the senior center, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The 11th, the 25th.
The 11th, 19th, and 25th, I'll be gone.
We'll be gone the 25th? Okay.
The 11th too, you're going?
Huh?
Are you going on the 11th?
Yeah, I'm going on the
He's leaving on the 11th, and when do you come back?
11th, the 25th. So
Okay.
when you're having a meeting,
How-
I'll be in the,
How convenient.
So you'll
What's
be
that?
assigned all the extra duties.
yeah, I know. Oh, Jack will do that. Jack will.
And then we have June 8th. Go ahead, Diane.
I would like the weather to be around 80 degrees, so that I can adjust to the temperature.
All right.
Well, June can be a cold, wet month too, so.
Yes, it can.
Okay.
We'll still have you on Zoom, is that?
I won't be here for June 8th, just so you know. I'll be off in Kansas City.
Kansas City,
Okay.
Hilltop Restaurant.
But once we get farther out, we'll see what we have for,
Okay.
Mhm.
you know. And we'll,
And I'm assuming all the other things will be for the other projects.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, as far as, well, this one here kind of works for us. The other one is with the school committee. I mean, does Wednesdays work for everybody? I mean, it seems to.
It works for me.
Okay.
Yep.
And alternating the
Right.
meetings works for me.
It works for me. I'm just concerned, I would check with WCTV. They're the ones that really have to.
Right. So we've been fortunate, we've been able to use the OWL and sync up with,
I mean, if you have a presentation, you don't wanna use OWL. You'd
right,
rather have somebody in here. to
Correct.
Understand that, and there are other meetings that we cover, the school committee just came up, and you just mentioning dates that there is school committee, the, May 11th and May 25th, those are both school committee nights. And, I don't know about June, but they have a summer schedule, so, it looks like you can do, if you have an abbreviated meeting, you can do the OWL. If you have something like this one,
mhm,
you could do an OWL, but it's something else that you have a lot of graphics, you'd rather have somebody in the room.
I don't have the town calendar.
Is it may be worth just having a conversation with Glenn, just to remind him of, the schedule that we're trying to keep, so that, obviously if the school committee, there's some absolute need to meet on, change up their schedule on the Wednesday cycle, but just so there's an understanding on their end that we're trying to
Right.
set it up so that the meetings for the town school are not happening on the same nights as the school committee, and if they can exercise some measure of deference, I guess, as appropriate.
Right, and then we also have to consider the MSBA project coming up, because the permanent building committee will be meeting on those nights also.
Right.
The school committee has their dates set, or it's on the town website, so I believe they vote on it once a year, right? Their schedules for the year coming up, so they have meetings on June 8th and 22nd, in addition to, as Don said, May 11th and May 25th.
So those 4 dates are already there.
Correct. As is the Board of Appeals schedule and the Conservation Committee as well, 7 PM Wednesdays. So, again, I'm not looking for an answer here tonight. I just throw that out there. It's just,
No,
the WCTV does a great job. We rely on them, but it's a lot to
have
take
to-
on in one night.
Yeah. What is the, Greg, are you able to look at July, August for school committee? Do they have a summer schedule?
I don't know if they've voted on their summer schedule yet. It looks like on the town side, we have nothing on the website just yet.
What about looking at May 10th, 24th, June 7th, so that's a Tuesday.
That's fine with me.
I think, with Greg bringing that up and really having these, and we know that these meetings are, finalized, and we're kind of, concerned about WCTV, maybe it would be better that we do pick another date versus having such, it sounds like even some days there's 3 things going on even
Right.
before we go on.
I mean, we can still we have this booked out. I mean, one of the other things you have to remember is booking room 9 here or the auditorium to make sure that we are able to capture this.
That too.
So that's why the owl's been so helpful too.
I'm good on those nights, the Tuesday nights, if you,
Yeah, I'm trying to see what.
And maybe we don't need to solve it right here, right now, but we,
Yeah, we may not be able to, because I guess one of the things I'm just thinking, and I don't have this full schedule in front of me, but the Board of Health, for example, it seems to me they may be meeting on a Tuesday, and they typically meet at 5, I believe, 5 to 6 or thereabouts, so that would potentially be an issue. Obviously, you need some separation time between when they're meeting and when we're meeting, if we were to meet on a Tuesday.
And the planning board is booked out through June right now on
Yeah,
Tuesdays,
so-
so, it's,
A lot going on.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Board of Health, Planning Board.
all right, everybody good Sunday mornings?
No.
What about Thursdays? Do we have a lot of committee meetings on Thursdays?
Let's see, Metro North Housing, Recreation Commission.
So those typically aren't televised, right?
No.
Thursday nights.
Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners meet, but theirs is not televised either.
Recreation committee, 5.
You know, the rec is another group that I believe meets at 5.
I mean,
George, I would recommend we try to aim for the next meeting, and then we explore it a little bit more.
Yeah, when other
Maybe we
people.
can start to
solve.
think about this.
We have to get by our
Let's get through the town meeting.
Baby steps.
Okay.
So George, just to understand, this 5/11 is not gonna take place?
We'll keep it at 5/11, so, but
For now.
for now,
For now, okay, and then we can move forward after that meeting?
correct. That'll be right after our town meeting,
Right.
so, and you won't be here, WCTV, so we'll have an owl.
Probably, yes.
Okay. Are you gonna be here, Diane?
Yeah, the 30th, that's April 30th, right?
Yep. Okay, so we'll have Diane in person.
I'm probably wearing a sweater.
How many articles?
Not that many,
It's only a few, 54.
Yeah.
I think.
yeah.
They'll fly by. We
That's
should
okay.
be out by 7.
Jonathan keeps it moving. He does keep it moving.
Okay.
Jeff, when do the
Do you
committee
think?
reports come
Hmm?
out?
Good job.
It's
For
Article
the
2.
budget?
Article 2?
Yes, Article 2.
Of how long it will take?
Article 2.
I think we'll be out by 5 p.m.
All right.
Latest.
Next item on the
Once you get
agenda
past
is
the
a public
budget item,
comment.
There's really
Do we have any?
nothing that's going to create a lot of time.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So we're talking about this funding business, I mean, I was thinking of the phrasing that the intent was don't wanna tie yourself in, you could just make it, but
Again, it's just an update on the committee, so.
Certainly that, the whole discussion about financing is gonna come up in the, in the interim period here, so it's not like we wouldn't be having that conversation, you know, until the fall. We clearly need to be answering that question between now and the fall, so. That'll be public knowledge. I mean, I think that needs to be part of our efforts to generate a positive vote here is, you know, aside from the virtues of the building and where it's located and design and all, we need to speak to the issue of how it's being financed in a way that's going to appeal to people.
Any other discussion?
If I may, I just wanted to publicly apologize. I announced last week at the selectmen meeting that we were going to be remote, and that I kind of made a point to note that so people could tune in, so I apologize that it was changed after the selectmen meeting, so.
Yeah. Other than that, last item is to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded?
Jack Holloway made the motion, Paul Maloney second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.